Good day, my loves. Good day, good day, good day, good day, good day. I hope you are well. I am sending you peace of mind, love in your heart, and healing for your soul. I'm not drinking tea, I'm actually drinking a smoothie. This is Spiritually Savage, and thank you and welcome. Thank you and welcome. Thank you for coming to my channel. And I'm welcoming all those who is this is your first time clicking on. You guys are literally my spiritual family. If you were energetically drawn and not just being nosy to my channel. And so this is a trigger warning. And I really don't want to do this. But this is the second time it's come up. And I believe I've only told one other person in my life, what happened. But I never called it what it was. Right? And so I processed this probably about a month ago, but the thought came up again because this person popped into my head. And I know energetically what that means is that they're pulling on my energy. And so this is a trigger warning. This is like trigger warning. But this is my story. And knowing what I know now about energy and how it can be trapped in your body, and how the only way to process trauma is to talk about it. That's the only way you can heal it, right? And so this is a trigger warning, okay? This is a trigger warning. But before I get to the trigger, I would like to give some background information. And this involves a man that I dated for a long time. And we were talking about marriage and children. And side note, I've always dated older men. But this person I found later lied to me about his age. And I still continue to date him. So I met him when I was in my mid-20s. And I met him at work. And side note, had I known about my chart, I would not have dated anybody from work. And that seems to be what I normally do. I date people from work. Why? I don't know. Even my last boyfriend, the one I had the miscarriage with, I met him at work. And my chart says that's a no. Anyway, the way it started was great. I saw him at work, and I was telling my homegirl at work about him and how I see him on the train or whatever. And she took it upon herself to send him an email about me, about what I was thinking. I just had a revelation about that, but anywho, we dated for like 3 months at work, like literally. Where we worked at, they had a cafeteria, so we would go up there. We would go up there and eat lunch almost every day. And then he finally asked me out, like outside of the job. And I mean, I loved him, and I still do love him, right? I really do. Which is why he popped in my head, because initially I was thinking, like, how's he doing? And I hope all is well. That's the thought that was going on in my head while I was in the kitchen. And so then it got back to the trigger and it was like, okay. But I didn't recognize it for what it was when it happened. But in the beginning, it was just like, it was beautiful, y'all. It was like there was no sex involved or none of that stuff or whatever, whatever. And it's so hilarious, right? Anywho, it's a beautiful story. Our first date was magical. Even our lunches were magical. It was just like beautiful. He's very wise, intelligent. We love to play Scrabble. That's like one of my favorite games. Not too many people like to play Scrabble, so he did. And he was just a gentleman. He really was. Anywhere we went, I didn't have to drive. He wouldn't let me actually. Would never let me pay for anything. Like, only time he let me pay for anything was on his birthday. And then even that made him feel uncomfortable and stuff like that. Because he was wounded. He was traumatized. And if you know anything about men, they they are taught and bred to hold their emotions in. So as an empath, of course, I knew that, understood the assignment. And so I loved him with everything, right? Um, but the emotional connection was not being satisfied for me. Like, I was giving, of course, but I wasn't getting it back. And, knowing what I know now, I would have cut ties and I wouldn't have even dated him. When you know about emotional trauma and availability and emotional intelligence and things like that, right? So that's hindsight 2020. But it was beautiful, magical, like, and he was the first man I dated since not being a teenager, and the first man I dated after not dating anyone and having no sex for like 3 to 4 years, like that. And so it was beautiful, y'all. It was so beautiful. So while I was building my house, I had my stuff at my parents' house, but I was practically living with him. We went to work together, we came home together, we went out on the weekends. He took me to plays, y'all. Like, this was an older, distinguished gentleman, and I loved it. I loved it. He introduced me to new things and all kinds of stuff. But he had a tendency when things got difficult to break up with me. He did it one time before. And the crazy thing about it is that I didn't miss a beat. I didn't I We still went to lunch, we still went to dinner because I didn't take him serious because I understood the assignment. I knew what was going on with him. But I did tell him that that's the only time he get to do that. Like, talk to me. That's it. Talk to me. And whatever you're going through, we can work it out. We can go through it together. But don't break up with me. Because I've never been that back and forth. And this is me in my mid 20s, y'all. And he was in his 30s, late 30s, early 40s. Yeah. No, yeah, late 30s, early 40s. I don't know if he was quite 40 yet, but he was in his late 30s. Um, and I was like, don't break up with me. That's the thing. You can't do that because I don't. As a teenager, I didn't do that. I wasn't one of them girls that break up with you on the weekend or break up with you when it was summertime. No, that wasn't me. And he understood what I said, and so there was like shakeups at our job, and people were getting laid off, and he had gotten laid off, and we got into an argument because I wanted to pay for dinner or whatever it was. Mind you, I got laid off too, but then we got our jobs back. My accounting department got our jobs back. So we got laid off and got a severance package. And then the company that bought our company realized that our accounts receivable and our account was too big for their small company. So they hired us back on until they can figure out. So, it was a win win situation for me. And as my counterpart, I didn't think it was a big deal. Now hindsight 2020, I understood where he was at mentally, right? And so he broke up with me again, and that was it for me. There was other little things that led up to that, and I think by this time we had been dating for like 2 years or so. He was going through his own things, and later on, we discussed it, and it was an intimidation thing because he's like, yo, my young girlfriend is doing all of this. She just bought, he would not come to my house. When my house was finally built, y'all, he would not come to my house. He felt so, it was intimidation because, like he said, but this was, he was growing and I was growing. And his last relationship, he found out while he was in the forces that his fiance cheated on him with his best friend. So, baggage. We all had baggage and we all had trauma. But one thing I just did not tolerate was just not being open and being communicative. Communicate what's going on. And a lot of people find that difficult. Right? So when he broke up with me that time, I was like, okay. Because there was a lot of things that led up to it and I was all ready. So he came to my housewarming and the whole time he was trying to monopolize my time. Like I had a house full of people and all I kept hearing was my name being called, my name being called. And I was getting so irritated and agitated, like, and one of my coworkers realized that and was like, hey, come on and take me on a tour so I can, like, calm down. And she was already married and she was pregnant with twins. And so she was, just trying to get me to see. But when he broke up with me, it was like, okay. And so I didn't talk to him or anything like that. But when he called, I was still normal. And when he asked me to come over for dinner, I still went because him and his roommate and his roommate's girlfriend, who later on became his wife, you know, um, invited me over for dinner. It was normal. So after dinner was over, I get up to leave. And he's like, where are you going? And I was like, I got a date. I can't remember whether or not I was telling the truth or if I just lied to prove a point. I don't remember. I do believe I had somewhere to go though. But anyhow, and he just lost it. Now, I've seen him lose it before a couple of times. One time when we first started dating and we were on a train and he, like, literally, it was a man who was on the train and he was harassing people and he was already harassing this white couple and I was just like, don't come over here. This is the ex-military dude. Don't come over here. The man came over here and I'm trying to calm my man down, like, hey, it's not worth it, like, blah blah blah. He was getting so heated, y'all. He forgot I was there. I had to literally step in front of him. And he's like, taller than me. And I'm like, hey, listen. And then the dude was like, man, I don't want no problems. Which I knew he didn't. I knew this man didn't. He didn't want the problem. So he was like, man, I was just, and my dude was like, go on about your business. Go on about your business. And he's from the north. So I say all that to say, and there was another incident, but when he broke up with me, it was actually a relief because it was leading to that. But I don't think he realized that I would take him seriously because when I said I have a date and he just nutted up and I wasn't, scared or anything and we still had guests and We still sitting at the table, and I'm laughing. I was like, "You broke up with me." He was like, "Well, I didn't mean it," and blah blah blah. And I said, "We had this conversation before," and I forget how it ended. I'm sure I wrote about it if I was still writing in my journal, and I'm sure I was writing in my journal then. But I forget how it ended. So fast forward to 2 years later, I want to say we've been broken up this time. Um, I still went out with him to a concert, and his coworker slash homegirl tried to. We was in the car, and Frank was. Oh, I'm gonna have to bleep that out because I didn't mean to say his name. He was confessing about how he felt about me, and his homegirl was in the car, and I confessed why. We have to. I'd rather be your friend because the emotional connection, even though I knew he loved me, was not there. It was like the communication wasn't there. I wasn't being fed that way. And I was still in my 20s at this time. And so, fast forward to 2 years, 2.5 years later, and I missed him. He missed me. We met up at the movies. He cried. I cried. We decided to try it again. And I was dating someone at the time. It wasn't serious. It wasn't like, I wasn't in love with this dude, but it was dating. That's a whole nother story. And that deserves his own. So, anywho, we decided to try. And so I stopped messing with other dude. And, you know, my ex and I started dating again. No sex, just dating. And so when like maybe a month, 2 months or so went by, and I, wanted to be with him in a sexual way, it was nothing. Mind you, the 2.5 years, oh, this is very important. The 2.5 years that we were together, there was never any sex without a condom. Not never, not ever, not one slip up, not one break. And he was adamant about it. Like he was so adamant about it that it was like, what? Like it was a little freakish for me. It was a little weird, not in a weird, like crazy way. It was just like, he was so adamant about, he would stop in the middle if he felt like the condom was breaking out and change it, like literally. So he was very adamant about that. So you fast forward 2.5 years, 3 years later, and we're dating again. And our first sexual encounter was the last ever in life. Now, there was a period of time where I would just go over there. That's a whole nother story. But anyhow, I wasn't dating, he wasn't dating, or I don't know if he was dating. But when, anywho, that's a whole nother story too. But this is dating. And so here comes the trigger. And what I didn't recognize it until like a month ago. So our very first encounter, after all this time, and we're in the midst, and I sensed the switch on him. And knowing what I know about spirituality, I know it happened. But I sensed a shift in him because I'm telling him to get a condom, which I never had to. And he just instantly switched on me. He was like, "No, we don't need it." And I was like, "Yes, we do." He said, "No, we don't." And I kept like pushing him off of me, telling him, "Yes, we do." He pinned my legs back to my ears and proceeded to have sex with me without a condom. Now I'm pushing him, I'm telling him no, and in that position, you are pretty much helpless. So after he finished, I got dressed. I was getting dressed, and he was like, "Where you going?" And I was like, "Take me home." He said, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." Then he said, "No, I'm not sorry. I meant to do that." And then he started saying, while he was doing it, he was saying things like, "You're not going anywhere. We're going to be together." This was our very first encounter after I gave him a second chance. A month ago, I was going over that, and I had watched the video, and I recognized it for what it was. I didn't see it like that before, and I say that only because even after that, I still had reached out to him to see how he was doing. But that day, I lost a part of myself. And so today I'm reclaiming it back because I didn't recognize it for rape at all. And I sympathized with my rapist because I knew him and I loved him. Do you know how much that took away from me? I don't, but I'm discovering it now. Because he was somebody I knew. And I've watched movies about this. I've watched movies, but because it wasn't violent, I didn't associate it with it. It was violent, but it wasn't a stranger. It was forced. Because if someone is pushing you off of them, I don't care if they are naked now. Ooh. Okay, I don't know what that means, but look what just said. I don't know if y'all can see that spider. I'm not gonna kill it. It's going off my bed. I'm gonna take that as a positive sign because I know that was a part of the spider's narcissistic spider's way. Go on now, go about your business. Go find your family. We are no longer trapped. We are no longer bound. We have freed ourselves. And we have found that there is authentic love. And God is so divine that once I was lost, now I'm found to define my own life, my own rules, my own destination. No longer enslaved, no longer bound, no more procrastination. Life is love. Look at it. Make your way outside, little buddy, because my cat will eat you. I don't know, can y'all see that? Look. I don't know if y'all could see it before, but there it goes. Ooh, it just hopped. I don't think Lucky's in the window. I think Lucky's in his house. Well, I'm going to take that as a sign. I'm going to watch it go, though, because I don't need to be big or nothing. Matter of fact, hold on, y'all, because I don't want this in here. And I don't want to kill it. I'm talking about it descended. What does that mean? Oh, it disappeared, y'all. Oh no, it didn't. There it go. Get down, Cash. Lucky, get back. Move, Cash. Okay, it's gone. Okay, Lucky, you can go outside if you want to. It's not raining anymore. Yeah. When you've been under black magic, and I was at the time, your judgment is clouded and you don't see things for what they are. But the moment you see things for how they were, even 20 something years ago, you liberate and you free yourself. Why I never thought that? I don't know why. I knew it was a violation, but I never used the word rape. Not at all. When I realized it, I cried. I cried because I didn't know. I cried because I didn't recognize it for what it was. I cried for the innocence that was lost at that time. But I know that I didn't know about spirituality and, oh my goodness, I didn't know, but he did. He did. I just had another memory come back. He knew. He knew. Oh, wow. I don't know to what extent he knew, but he knew about demon possession. Hmm. And so when I thought about him today, the first thoughts I had was, oh, I wonder how he's doing. I hope he's okay. And then I remembered our last conversation when he told me he was in therapy. And then I remembered during that last conversation how I was happy to even talk to him. But as I'm thinking these thoughts in my head, that moment flashed about the last time we were intimate. And then the thought of the realization a month ago that he actually raped me. Hmm. And so I decided not to reach out. We all have our crosses to bear. And I don't even know if he even recognized that, but I'm almost certain, and this is just not saying, like I got the big head or anything like that, but I'm almost certain I have come up in his therapy sessions. And I wonder if he talked about that night to his therapist and whether or not his therapist is a man or a woman. I believe she's a woman. I believe it's a woman though. I wonder if she called it for what it was. Or I wonder if his memory depicts the same thing. Like, how would he explain why we broke up the last time? But it bothered me that my first thought was, oh, I wonder if he's okay. Being raised by a narcissist and being groomed by one and having black magic done on you is like, it's very traumatic. And I'm sure there are things that I have yet to uncover. I hope you guys are well. And for anyone who has ever been sexually assaulted, don't hold it in. Don't hold it in. I remember crying to my best friend at the time, like, oh my God, why would he do that? Why? And the crazy part about it is that at the time, I wasn't even thinking about rape. I was thinking about being pregnant. Like, seriously. And I remember crying to her. I don't remember what she said, though. I don't remember. But I'm glad I'm finding the pieces of me that have been missing for a long time. It doesn't feel good, but it does feel good. It doesn't feel good when you have to remember and those same emotions and feelings come up. But it is good because once they come up and come out, you're healing an old wound. And getting a piece of my heart back, getting a piece of my soul back. I don't wish any ill will on anyone because we were all pawns in the same game. I don't. But people do still need to be held accountable for their actions. Namaste, Ashe, Mazel Tov.